What's up, everyone, and welcome into the Buffalo Sports Collective. It is Friday, February 17th, 2023. As always, I am PK alongside my co-host and best buddy, Phil, is in the house. Phil, Wednesday felt like fake spring, and it got my hopes up, and I didn't like it because now Friday night it's supposed to snow.
Yeah, we got to remember there's a Bandits home game coming up, and the weather will always be terrible.
That's true.
When you have to walk downtown, because that's just how it goes for some reason. Again, same this exact situation on a Wednesday before the game. It's 50, gorgeous, and you wouldn't mind walking downtown even with a little bit of wind. And now it's going to snow on Friday and be miserable probably on Saturday when we have to actually walk downtown. And it happens every single time. But as true Buffalonians, I also was not fooled by the fake spring, but that doesn't make it any easier. You get that little taste of warm weather, a little bit of niceness, and it's very easy to give into, even though you know right around the corner is, what are we on, second winter? Are we up to now?
Yeah, this is second winter, yeah.
All right. I think we are at the start of second winter, so that'll be for a little while, and I don't remember exactly how it goes if there's another fake spring tossed in there before a third winter. Usually I know we've had snow on around Easter multiple years in a row, so I don't think we're anywhere near done. I don't think anybody thinks we're anywhere near done, but like you said, that little bit of warm weather, it feels great, and it just gets your hopes up that little bit, even though you know snow is coming quick.
And as a true Buffalonian, I had windows open in my house the other day just to air out the house and try to get, when you have foster dogs running around and two of your own dogs, and then me and Brooke in the house too, you want to air out the house every once in a while, so when the opportunity presents itself, you got to do it. So if you're like me and you aired out your house as well, let us know by following us on Facebook and Instagram at Buffalo Sports Collective and on Twitter at Buffalo Sports Co. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel wherever you listen to podcasts. Check out our website at buffalosportscollective.com and check for the time breakdowns in the description of the show. Phil, I'm going to try to make these transitions as awkward as possible moving forward. And that's the start of it. So we will start with the Sabres here. 2 games to go over. Monday versus the Kings. Lost 5-2. They were actually down 5-0 at one point midway through the third period and chipped in 2 meaningless goals. They were scored by Cousins and Krebs. Anderson, 23 of 28 saves. Shots were just 29-28 in favor of the Sabres. Very low scoring, or low shooting game. Not low scoring because it was 5-2, but that's typical of a Kings game. And then on Wednesday, flash forward to one of the worst teams in hockey, the Anaheim Mighty Ducks. I will still continue to call them the Mighty Ducks for as long as I live because they are the Mighty Ducks. Not so mighty in this one. Lost 7-3. The Sabres won 7-3. Goals by Jost, Tage Thompson, Krebs, Middlestead, Tuck, Zemgus Girgensson, and Dylan Cousins. Comrie was in net in this one, making 19 of 22 saves. Shots themselves were 44-22, so the Sabres doubled them up. Their record is sitting at 27, 22, and 4 on the season with 30 to go.
Yeah, the Kings game, we can start there. It was pretty lackluster overall. I mean, we understand, like you just kind of mentioned a little bit, the Kings style, and we talked about it a little bit before the podcast, is very similar to the New York Islanders. They're a very heavily defensive team that then focuses on their counterattacks to make you pay. And going down 5-0 against a team like this is never good. But even the way the Kings were scoring, I mean, it was one of those games where every single bounce, every single shot was just pinpoint perfect, or every bounce went right their way. I mean, the one off the board stuck in Anderson's skates where he had no idea where it was, even though he felt it, looked down, didn't see it. I mean, it was just one of those games that, even though the shots were pretty even, I don't think the scoring chances were all that even in favor of the Sabres versus the Kings, but just the bounces, the shots, the way everything went down, it was one of those games where, I mean, we've said this a couple more times than we'd like recently, where you just want to forget it, but this was just a bad luck game that everything that could go right for the Kings went right for the Kings. Like you said, 2 meaningless goals at the end of the game, but at the same time, those are the kind of goals at the end of a game like that. They give you a little bit of something to take away that lead into the next game. So meaningless to the score, maybe meaningless to the team. I think it means something to them to put a couple in and just kind of roll that into the Ducks game, which they ended up doing.
Yeah, I think that summed it up perfectly. It was meaningful towards them because the 2 players that scored in that one also scored in the Ducks game. But I think you hit the nail on the head that the Kings just play this certain style of hockey where if they go up, you're not going to be able to come back from them. I remember when the Kings were here in Buffalo, and that was one of the games I went to where it was 0-0 after 2 periods, and you're like, oh man, this is a very boring game. And then the Sabres scored, I think, 6 in the 3rd period, where if you can get up on the Kings, if you can get up on a team like the Islanders, you make them play your style of hockey, where if you go down on them early, and that's exactly what happened here. I mean, the 2nd period killed them. It seems to be the Sabres' kryptonite is the 2nd period. It seems that you have to go play their style then, that you have to make the comebacks. You have to adjust your game to them, where you're not playing your own quick, fast-paced game like the Sabres like to play. But 2 power play goals, shorthanded goal, that's the big difference in this one. Sabres were 1 for 5 on the power play. It seemed like they played better in the second half of the game than the first half of the game, but that kind of comes with the going out west, which this team had been very good at. But I guess transitioning it into the Ducks game, this was a game you needed to win. This is one of the worst teams in the NHL. They're not going anywhere this year. This was a team that you needed to beat, and they did just that and snapped the 4-game losing streak.
Yeah, the two biggest things in this Ducks game, I mean, it got a little bit scary there for a moment, not by shot standards, but by score standards. When they were down, I believe 3-2, they went up really early, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh my goodness, here we go again with the Sabres that just can't seem to hold a first period lead. And then luckily they stormed immediately back and then just took over and beat a really bad team that they should have. But the big thing for this one was the secondary scoring for me with,
Yes.
I mean, Yost, Krebs, Middlestat, I mean, even Tuck's goal, but Zemgus, Cousins. I mean, this was the exact opposite of the Kings game as far as luck goes in a way. I mean, every single shot that was taken by the Sabres was just one of those shots that was just pinpoint accurate. It wouldn't have gone in if it was anywhere else, but at the same time, it just, if it was an inch to the left or inch to the right, it probably wasn't going in. It was going off a post and wide, but they just hit every single thing perfectly. But seeing players like Yost, like Zemgus, I mean, Krebs, Middlestat, those kind of players picking up goals, those are always going to be big confidence boosters. And just seeing the way they scored, it was a lot of hard work. It was a lot of fun setups. I mean, Middlestat now has kind of seemed to have found his rhythm a little bit with that kind of shot. It's not the first time he has kind of pulled up and just whipped that wrist shot into that little corner. I think it's a couple of times he's done that now more recently. I think he's kind of starting to find a shot that works pretty well for him. And then the other aspect of this game was Comrie getting back in there. His game was kind of weird. I mean, I know it's the Ducks, but I'll say it again because it happens now every single time Comrie plays, that when the, I guess currently 3rd string goalie is out there, the defense seems to tighten up a little bit and they just don't want to allow shots on net. I mean, it was almost the entire first period that the Ducks didn't get a single shot in, and then even a little ways through the second, they only had 4 or 5 shots, and Comrie let one of those in. But for the most part, I think he played okay. I think the screenshot from the point, there's no way he's going to be able to see that. Not really on him. I think the other 2, he kind of overcommitted and might want to have back. But for him, I think this was a decent confidence builder. I think you're going to possibly need him down the stretch in case there is ever an injury. But he still seems a little off. I think it's going to be tough for him to ever really get going the rest of the season as long as UPL continues to play the way he is and doesn't get injured in any way, because Comrie, I think, needs a lot of games in a row to really get moving again. But unfortunately for him, the Sabres don't really have that luxury to kind of throw him back in there and just see what he's got and really get him going. But I think these one and done kind of games are tough for him as a goalie to play. I know they said his attitude's been really good and he's, taking this with stride, understands the situation. So he's not a negative locker room anything, but at the same time, for his own play, I think it's going to be tough for him to ever really put together a solid performance until he gets 2, 3, 4 in a row and really kind of gets going again.
Yeah, I think Granato said it on WGR this morning, or Thursday morning when he's normally on, and he just said that when you got Comrie back in that long stretch where he had like 13 games in 22 days or whatever it was, having the 3 goalies was a benefit. But now that the games are more spaced out and you're only doing like the one and dones, like you said, the goalies can't get in a rhythm. And I think that's what's hindering, the Andersons it got shaken up in the LA game, but otherwise he's been pretty steady. The Comrie, who's has not been getting consistent play, even though they brought him in to kind of be that 1A goalie. UPL's pretty much getting the load of it, and I think that's the way it should be. But I think in this one, like you said, started off, the secondary scoring, 7 Sabres scored in this one. 14 of the players got at least a point. For me, I guess we can tie this into my question is what the Sabres need to do to keep climbing up the standings. I think the Sabres need to get the rookies going. They need to get Quinn going. He had 2 assists on this one. He looked good, but he's still not looking to shoot first. He needs to be more selfish with the puck rather than try to find that perfect pass across. Like Middlestate was going down on that 2-on-1. Instead of trying to force the pass across, he shot it, and it went in. I think that's what Krebs needs to be doing. Both Krebs and Peterka were doing that in December, where you had true number 1 and number 2 line, and then they kind of just went into this rookie rut. And I think that's part of the reason that Granato shaked up the lines on Monday and went right back to it on the Wednesday game. But I think the also good move that I actually like is you had Krebs with Poso and Gergensen for a long, long time, and you knew he wasn't going to stay there because he's too talented of a player to be playing more with grinders and energy guys at this point in their careers. So you put them back up with Casey and Olofsson. I think that's going to unlock not just his game, but credit to Lance Lazowski from the Buffalo News for getting this one, and I think I butchered your last name, but Middlestate's got 16 points in the last 21 games. You add him or add Krebs to a line that, Olofsson scoring with the best of them on 5-on-5. Middlestate is quietly having a nice season now. You add in Krebs, who's a playmaker. I think that can be a legit second line until you can get your rookies back going. Because, Dylan Cousins is having a great year. That should wear off and spread to Jack Quinn and JJ Peterka, but it just hasn't yet. You want to be moving and grooving at the perfect time, but you got to be in the position to be, withstanding some of these ruts, and hopefully this gets going. But like the other thing, like we said, depth scoring, that needs to continue. You saw this in the Wednesday game versus the Ducks. Hopefully that keeps going. But I'm going back to it. They need to bring in another more improved 5th or 6th defenseman to this team, even if it's just a guy on an expiring contract. You're looking to get over this hump that is the drought that is 11 years running. I think if you bring in a more depth defender who doesn't have to have term, you don't have to worry about him taking place from your young guys who are up and coming and whatever. He doesn't have to take time. Put him on the ice for 15 minutes a night, lock that 5-6 spot down, and you're looking good.
Yeah, I think on the YouTube channel, I think there were just the Sabres highlights. Someone mentioned, the typical Sabres fan here, and here's everything wrong with my team. And they listed way too much, in my opinion, and the chain eventually went on, and there was someone who wasn't a Sabres fan and said, your team's actually super young. They're pretty good, up and coming. And then that person eventually kind of commented back, like, oh, no, I was talking more about this year. I know the future looks bright. And that's, again, just where I am with all of this. I am 100% on board with making a trade to bring someone in to try to get this team over the rut. But I think people are not looking too far ahead or anything. The Sabres are right there. There's no reason you cannot try to push for playoffs. There's no reason you can't look for playoffs. There's no reason you can't try to make a trade to make the push. I'm there for absolutely all of it. But I think at the same time, you also have to look just at what this team is. Going into this season, we were hoping they would be in this position, but did we really believe that they'd be pushing for a playoff spot this late in the season? I don't know. And I think this team is still so much more built for the future than it is for this year. And again, I'm 100% on board with I'm not trying to say give up on the season or anything like that, but I think just in the grand scheme of things, people have to also remember this team is extremely young. It is built for the future. It's not built for the now. Yes, getting to playoffs would be super exciting. And again, I'm all for getting to playoffs. I'm all for making a trade if we can make something happen exactly like you said. Not long-term, something quick, something to hopefully get over this hump, push them in. I'm all for it. But at the same time, this team is looking way better, I think, at this point in their rebuild than maybe we would have thought. I think they're ahead of schedule than what we would have really believed them to be. And I think that's just what we have to also just take a step back and look at this team as a whole and where this team's actually going. And again, this is nothing to say against this season or against pushing for playoffs. I am 100% here for it, but just the aspect of just where this team is as incredible as it is just impressive where they've already begun to get with their development and all these players, and just this team's forming together much quicker than I think we actually even believed would happen.
Yeah, you put it well that you want to try to, you're in the race. You want to try to get over that hump and do it while also not harming your future. I'm not saying go out and get this high-powered Chitrin, for example. You don't have to go get him if you don't want to. But I think you need to at least add a piece where it not only shows, hey, your fan base, hey, we know we're in position to do it, but also the players in the locker room saying, hey, we believe in you. Here's another piece to try to help you get over the hump. I think that would also pay dividends too. But I think you put it perfectly that this team is, at least in our opinion, because I'm with you, the team is further ahead in their development than I thought they would be. I wanted them to be in these meaningful games. They're in them. And I think they're even closer to a playoff race than I thought they would be in. I thought they would probably be closer to where Philly is at 54 points, in the race, but are you really in the race? Right. You still got meaningful games, but I think, where they're sitting, and I think that's a good transition to the wild card watch. Pittsburgh, 7th place, 53 games played, 63 points. Washington sitting in 8th, 56 games played, 62 points. New York Islanders, 57 games played, 61 points. Florida, 10th, 57 games, 60 points. Buffalo's is sitting in 11th, 53 games played, 58 points. Detroit is tied with them, 53 games, 58 points. Ottawa, down in 13th, but they're still technically still in it. I might bump them next time. 53 games played, 55 points. In Philly, 55 games, 54 points. The biggest thing here is the teams that are in 11th, 12th, 13th, all at 53 games. The teams that are in front of them in 8th, 9th, and 10th have played 3 or 4 more games. So if you win, we've been saying this for how long, Phil? If you win the games that you have in hand that you need to, like the Ducks game, you can creep back up into the race. You're only 4 games back of Washington with 3 games in hand on them. It's there for the taking. You just need to actually capitalize on that.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. They're still right there. The big thing with this team right now is they need to start stringing a lot of wins together. Yes. I mean, they just came off a 4-game winless streak and then finally got a win. You can't have that anymore if you want to make playoffs. You are at a point in the season where 30 games left. You have to start stringing a lot of wins together with only a couple losses here and there throughout the rest of the season in order to keep pace with all these other teams. You cannot keep going into these slides of 4 or 5 games where you're on a losing streak. Even win 2, lose 2, it's not going to cut it. You have to just rattle off a 5, 6, 7, 8 game at least point streak. It doesn't have to be necessarily wins, get some overtime losses, lose 1. You got to go 8-2, 7-3. You have to start stringing a lot more wins together than this team currently is. They're right there. They can absolutely do it. They just have to start putting it together a little bit more, but you are rapidly getting to the home stretch of the season, and wins are going to mean everything from here on out.
Yeah, I think I saw somebody put they need to win like 18 games to keep pace. So win 3, lose 1, win 3, lose 1, win 2, lose 1. Those kind of rushes, those kind of, games played there, but you just can't go on those losing streaks. Like you said, you can't go 4 games without a win. It just can't happen, or you fall further back. They were tied for 8th place going into the All-Star break, and then this 4-game losing streak kicked them out. But we'll move on to the BSC update, Phil. Earmuffs, in this 2-game stretch, I doubled your score. I had 22-11. You want to make any changes to your team, or you want to keep fighting the good fight you got?
I was doing so well. I got Olsen after, and I knew the second I picked him up, he would go cold.
He did, yes, but I don't know. Yes. Are you going to go Krebs? Krebs has been playing well. Middlestead?
I'll say Krebs or Middlestead. Really, the only other options right now.
Whoever you grab, though, is going to
fall
apart.
All right. So, do I want to hurt Krebs or Middlestead? That's the question.
Do you want to threaten Olofsson? Just saying, hey, I'm going to drop. Maybe not. And then it'll get into his head. Maybe he turns off the podcast when he hears I'm going to drop him.
Oh boy, there's just nothing exciting out there past all the players you have on your team. Yeah, Cousins I knew he'd be good, but he was good fine. Skinner's really let me. He was another player I was going to bring up. I know he's having a great season, but he's been a little too quiet as of
It's been the streaky goal scorer he's always been.
Yeah, that's true. I'd like to see a little more from him from the top line, but everyone else like Tuck and Tage Thompson being incredible are still holding him. I'll hold for now, I guess, and maybe next episode we'll shake it up if we continue falling further and further back.
Yeah, I will also hold. And on our next show on Monday, we'll talk about another must-win game where they're facing the Sharks out in San Jose on Saturday. It's, like I said, must-win, another bottom feeder team that you need to take advantage of and then head home for a long, grueling stretch of Eastern Conference teams that are going to, pay dividends if you win. Keep moving up that ladder. But we'll move on to our next segment here, Phil. The Beauts are getting a mascot. Phil, they're asking for nominations for naming said mascot. So we figured, and this was your idea, so you can take credit for this one. Name that mascot. I have 2 suggestions, and I guess I'll throw them out right now. First one that came to mind, blue, but I don't know what color mascot they're going to be. It's probably going to be baby blue like their jerseys. It would be at least my suggestion to do. But when I think of blue, first I think of your cat. Second, I think of Blue from Jurassic Park, so I don't know if you can name the mascot Blue. So I went with Betty Buffalo. I think Betty Buffalo could be another good option. You got the alliteration with the 2 B's. I think I went with Betty Buffalo. I don't know if you can top Betty.
Yeah, I don't know if Blue's just too simple. If it's
you could also
literally
change the blue cheese. You could roll it off that too.
Like, I feel like blue's just too simple if it's going to be a blue color mascot, like just literally you're saying that the blue buffalo is named Blue Buffalo.
Maybe they can't afford a bigger name. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's money.
Baby blue buffalo. Blue cheese buffalo.
That sounds intimidating.
Yes. Yeah, my only one outside of yours was a little bit more, I guess, cow related, but similar to the alliteration, because you and I kind of went down the path of looking at all the mascots currently for the Buffalo area, and all of the mascots are word alliteration. You got Buster Bison, which is 2 B's. You got Billy Buffalo, you got 2 B's. You got Saber, what's his name? Oh my gosh.
Sabretooth.
Yeah, Sabretooth. I was going to say Sabretooth. That doesn't make sense. Sabretooth for the Sabres. And then you got Rax the raccoon. So that every single one of them has alliteration. So I think we've both decided it has to be a B no matter what. At least following Buffalo sports tradition that is currently and actively taking place, got to be a B. So my other suggestion was old Betsy.
Yes.
Good old Betsy
girl.
Old Betsy Buffalo. It's not bad.
I love it.
I don't mind good old Betsy. I just don't think it's very fearful.
I don't think it needs to be. I think
no.
Oh, maybe it would be. I mean, old Betsy sneak up behind you and get you. I think we need to start a petition here at the BSC, and we need people to join us to name that mascot Betsy. But when you say Betsy, you got to say it with that twang, that old Betsy girl.
Betsy the Buffalo.
Yes.
I think she'd be great. She'd be a fan favorite. Good old Betsy.
I mean, Gritty's a fan favorite out in Philly. Everybody loves Gritty. Betsy could be the next Gritty. Yeah,
I feel like for a new mascot, Betsy sounds like she's 900 years old already.
She might be. She's an old girl.
Slowly rolls out. Old Betsy, there she is.
Oh, God. But yeah, if you want to support the name Betsy, just let us know, and we'll actually start a petition. But I don't know how many people are actually going to be on the side of Betsy. But, Phil, what everybody is on the side of is we actually have a playoff announcement. It's not as great as we were hoping, because we wanted the Buffalo Beauts to have an opportunity, and they still do. They still do. They're not mathematically eliminated yet. Maybe that's why they put it out before this weekend, because this weekend they could be officially eliminated. But the top 4 are going to make it. Semis is best of 3, and then the finals is 1 game. They're going to be taking place in Boston and Toronto. Not very shocking, because they're the 2 best teams. But Buffalo, like I said, is still alive. They just need to win the rest of their games in regulation and get a lot of help. So they need a lot of things to happen. So as of Saturday, if they lose, they're pretty much mathematically eliminated from the playoffs. But they're still alive as of this recording, Phil. The hope is still there.
The hope for Betsy.
The hope for Betsy
seeing
playoffs for the first time ever is alive.
They're gonna roll her out. Yeah, it's great to have playoffs finally announced, almost with 8 games remaining, and I don't know, we're new to the league, so I feel like we're coming in with a negative attitude because we have a lot of it from the NLL and their lack of announcing a lot of things. So this late in the season, finally getting a playoff announcement of what the playoff structure is, not even just when they're going to play the games or where they're going to be played, but exactly who's making it seems kind of strange at this point in the season, but it was not the announcement we were kind of hoping for with last year. Every team made it. This year they added 1 team. They got up to 7, and now that they have 7, they are knocking it down to the top 4 teams make it. So Buffalo, like we said, still alive, still possible, need a lot of help, need to go on an incredible run. It is possible, but they are looking not so great.
Their fax machine was broken. That's why it took so long to get this announcement out. Yeah. It's like when that NFL draft, they didn't get the draft pick. I think it was the Vikings didn't get it up in time, and like 3 teams jumped them. It's they lost their pen or something. There needs to be a logical reason why it took until February 17th to come out with the structure. If you knew it ahead of time, if you knew this going into the season, why wasn't it just announced? I feel like the team should know this. But yeah, like you said, first time in the league, we'll let it go this year, but next year we want it announced before the season even kicks off, because that seems logical. But nothing logical ever happens for Buffalo and other teams. I don't know. I'm not being logical now anyways, but what is logical? I guess that's another transition. I don't know how well it is, but Saturday, Sunday, Beauts are traveling to Minnesota to fight the Whitecaps, and Whitecaps are coming in 10-4-2, third place in the standings, 32 points. Buffalo's dead last, 2-12-2 for 8 points. Goals for Minnesota, they're averaging 306. Buffalo is down at 207, so Minnesota just a hair below, 1 more goal a game than the Buffalo Beauts. Minnesota giving up 2.38, Buffalo a whopping 4.5. Power play, it doesn't get any better for the Beauts here. Minnesota is top in the league at 231, 23% on the power play. I'm stuttering with my with Betsy. Betsy kicked me. And then Buffalo 16, close to 17% of the power play. But what is in favor of the Beauts here? We'll end on a good note. The penalty kill. Minnesota's down at 79%. Buffalo's way up at 86% on the penalty kill.
Yeah, we have one category we are leading, and we are going to run away with that category. It's going to be amazing. We're going to finish number 1 in the league in that category because we can. But as far as this game goes, I mean, like you said, the Beauts have been struggling statistically all year. So, lining up these teams, again, with statistics back-to-back, it doesn't look good against pretty much anyone they're going against, except maybe some of these other bottom teams that they will be going up against eventually. But as of right now, a lot of the stats just don't look good. Minnesota's still a good team. I know we were kind of saying like it gets a little bit easier. This is probably your last really tough competition.
Yep.
The whole league's tough. I'm not saying that the other games are going to be a cakewalk for a team that's in last place, but this is going to be another really tough one. This is still a very good team, but at the same time, the Beauts have been playing much better as of late. Again, they've gotten a lot more back to basics, just finding the little things that they can roll together to make work, to kind of just gain some positivity and just, focus on the little wins here and there to try to get your season back in shape. And this is another game they can do that. It's not Boston. It's not Toronto. It's not quite that elite level of a team, but they're still a very good team. It's going to be a tough series, but one, hopefully, with what the Beauts have been able to put together. And again, even more time off, which just seems crazy how many weeks they get off. But hopefully they can kind of use that time off, or did use that time off, to once again continue to focus on the little things, and they can roll something really solid this weekend.
Yeah, second time you've seen the Whitecaps. January 7th, they lost 4-1. January 8th, they lost 5-3. And another nice positive note for Minnesota. They're coming in a 6-game winning streak. So good for them, Phil. But some names to keep an eye on. Joanna Albers, number 3, 9 goals, 8 assists, 17 points. Natalie Snodgrass, number 8, 9, and 17. Two really good forwards on this team. Sidney Moran, number 5, 7, 8, and 15 from the defense corps, and then Patty Marshall, number 27, 2, 9, and 11. So their defense corps can also chip in the points, being 3 and 4 on their team in points. And then in net, Amanda Lavelle, 9, 4, and 2, 920 save percentage, and a 2.41 goals against. She's going to be tough to beat, but I mean, it's been a struggle all year for the Buffalo Beauts to put pucks in the back of the net and to keep pucks out of their net. I'm hoping that they can take advantage of what they have learned throughout the whole season so far, 16 games in, and can put in a solid effort against a team that's not the top tier, the second tier team, and make a statement known, because be spoiler at this point. Be a spoiler team and try to knock the Whitecaps down a notch. They're trying to clinch that third seed or try to catch up to Toronto and Boston. Play spoiler. That's what you got to be doing at this point. Be the team that everybody's going to hate because you ruined their season.
Not only that, I mean, we talked about it in our Devil's Avocado that we played. I mean, this is GM jobs on the line. This is coaching jobs on the line. This is player jobs on the line for some of these players. I mean, we haven't watched this team enough, I'm not saying this season, but outside of the season to really know that, there's any roster shakeups that need to happen with these players. I think the team itself, player-wise, is very good, but again, everyone's fighting for their careers every single game and every single sport that's out there. So the rest of the season, even if it's lost playoff-wise, which it's not quite statistically, but even if it is, this is literally jobs on the line. So, I mean, this is the Sabres of last year. Show that when your interim head coach came in, I know it's the same head coach, so it's not that similar, but the end of the season, the Sabres were mathematically out of playoffs, but they rolled and they had a really solid end of the season. They got some excitement from their fans, got a team to really build and grow together, and they rolled that into this season. Now look at where they are. So even if the season playoff-wise might be lost this year, you can still end the season on a good note and roll that into next year and really start next season on a high note. And there's a lot of jobs on the line for this team right now. So every single one of these games, even if it's not for this season, is still meaningful for this team.
Yeah, I think you put it perfectly when you said the GM's job's on the line, the coach's job's on the line, and some of these players as well. Only 4 of the 26 players that are signed with this team right now will be back next year for sure, because only 4 of those 26 have 2-year deals. The rest of them are on 1-year deals. So you're not just fighting for your spot on this team, you're fighting for your spot in this league. And if you want to play a little bit more selfish and look for your statistics, play as a team, but look to build those statistics because you're playing for your spot in the league. Usually teams that are playing in dead last, there's reasons for it. So you got to play better than that. I think going into this weekend, you're going to be looking to, once again, you've been doing it good the last 2 or 3 series now. Limit the shots against, because if they're not being able to get shots to the goalie, they're not going to be able to score. Generate some scoring opportunities and maintain the puck in the offensive zone. If the puck's in their end, they're not going to be able to score. Get back on defense, watch the odd rushes back. And then the last one, just try to snag some points here. Like I said, the rest of the schedule lightens up. You're facing the 4th, 5th, and 6th place teams in the standings. This is the 3rd place team. Play spoiler. Try to snag a point out of this one and just look to keep building it for the rest of the games on the schedule. But Phil, with closing out here, like we said, they got 6 more games after the series. Are you making any changes to your BSC team that consists of Newton, McPherson, Kepler, Kramer, and Healy? I have Mentis, Dobson, Maud, Dove, and Medzika.
No, I've still been quite enjoying the players I chose for the Beauts, so I'm gonna keep rolling. I like my team.
I also like my team, so I'm gonna roll with what I got too. It's 2 for 2 with no changes here, Phil. So we'll move on to our final segment here. Buffalo Bandits. They are back off a bye, but the team they're facing is also off a bye. 7-2 Bandits host the 3-4 Philly Wings on Wing Night. It's I don't like this one because you're just playing off the team that is coming. I know you have wings in Buffalo. Buffalo's known for wings, but you're playing off the Philadelphia Wings. I'm not a big fan of this night. Call me a Grinch, whatever you want to call it. But Buffalo, third in the East in goals for at 13.5. Philly is seventh in the East, so not dead last, but pretty dang close, 10.29. Goals against, Buffalo is second in the East at 10.45. Philly coming in fourth in the East at 11.86. Last game that the Buffalo Bandits faced versus Philly, it was a 13-9 win, 10-3 second half by the Bandits. An explosion there, and they got to stay out of the box, Phil, because Philly had 7 opportunities. They only cashed in on 2 of them, but, I mean, you cash in on 3 more, it's a game.
Yeah, that was a strange game. I remember it being a little bit nerve-wracking. Obviously, the first half was a little bit closer than we would have liked, especially against Philly. We thought that the Bandits would be able to roll in and do okay, but Higgins was just playing out of his mind, as goalies tend to enjoy to do against Buffalo, play the best game they've ever played in their lives and look incredible. And then luckily the Bandits seem to put it all together in the second half and come out in the third quarter and are a team we've never seen before, except only in the third quarter of every single game, where they're just incredible. But Philly is I mean, we're going to say it the rest of the season, when I feel like at this point in the season, Buffalo has 2 kinds of games. They have really good games against teams like Rochester, Toronto, maybe Halifax, and then you have trap games against pretty much the rest of the league. Because at this point, the top 3 are pretty much taking off in the East. They're all 7-2, and every single game matters. I mean, Halifax is 4-5, but we think the talent is much better than their record shows, so that one's a little bit interesting. But the rest of the league, as far as the East goes, is pretty much out of it. So all of them are, I mean, obviously that last spot with maybe Halifax and that extra wildcard spot is still up there, but they're all trying to play spoiler to the teams like the Bandits, trying to knock them out of first, knock them down a peg, whatever. So any of these types of games are pretty much going to be trap games the rest of the way. And Philly is looking a little bit better with their recent addition, which you will mention in a moment. But for the most part, it's still the Wings. We have no idea what this Buffalo roster is going to look like. Is Josh Byrne going to be back? Is anyone else going to be back? I don't think so, with what we're seeing and hearing and kind of assuming. We have nothing official, but doesn't maybe seem like Byrne is ready to come back. But at the same time, the Bandits just played an incredible Rochester team without him and looked pretty good. I mean, Dane Smith put the team on his back, but the team stepped up in a major way with depth scoring and has been all season. So I'm trying not to get too worried about their offense anymore and trying to just settle in a little bit more and understand that despite the fact that the names might not be there, that their depth scoring on offense is a little deeper than I think we might have suspected at the beginning of the season.
I'm glad you're coming around to that, Phil. You got Josh Byrne 2.0.
It's so hard
and,
to relax looking at those names. I mean, they're just
they're not name value.
But they're also just not supposed to be those guys. I mean,
right.
Robinson isn't supposed to have to put 5 goals up. He's supposed to be making lanes for people. It's a very weird season where players that aren't necessarily out there to score are being asked to score in bunches. So it's been a little weird. It's been nerve-wracking to see this forward group out there, but every single week they come away with an incredible offensive output. So at some point, I'm just going to have to settle down a little bit and enjoy the show.
So like we do every week, we will preview the Philly team here, and it does look a little bit differently. A not so friendly, familiar face is back from the West Coast, from Vancouver. Mitch Jones. Completely forgot about that trade when I was doing the preview here, but diving into it, it's like, yeah, that's a little scary. He's coming in. He's got 41 points on the season, but just last game, he had a 6-point game, 2 goals, 4 assists with his first time on the team. He's going to be a big power play guy, so you definitely got to stay out of the box. Blaze Reardon and Matt Rambo on the other side as well. Reardon having a good season, 17 goals. Matt Rambo being more of the facilitator. And then on the right-hand side, Sam LeClaire, who's still a young guy coming up. He's got 8 points on the year. But then Ben McIntosh, 26 points on the season so far. He's got 4 goals on the power play. And Joe Reseteris, who the offense kind of runs through since his coming over from Albany in the offseason. He's got 17 goals, 24 assists, 41 points, but he's got the 8 points on the power play. So this is a big team where you don't want to give them those opportunities on the power play. Buffalo has been and will always be trouble staying out of the box. This is a game where you definitely want to stay out of the box. I don't want to insult them by calling them an inferior opponent, but based on the numbers and everything, they are an inferior opponent to the Buffalo Bandits. You can't give them those opportunities, those free opportunities on the power play. Be smart, stay out of the box. You've been a good job. You've done a good job of adjusting at halftime to stay out of the box in the second half. You got to start doing that in the first half. You can't go down on teams once again and hope that your offense, who is depleted, can come back in the second half like you did against Philly. It's going to be a more difficult game for this defense having Mitch Jones on the left-hand side now.
Yeah, I think the defense is going to be interesting from the standpoint of where are they chemistry-wise. I mean, 9 games in, but also Bomberry's only played a couple games, so he's still pretty new. I think maybe this with the off week, and I'm not sure if they practiced on their off week or just took it as a bye week, but at the same time, I think this defense is just going to continue to grow more and more. But like you said, it's a little bit more of a challenge than maybe last time they saw Philly with only 9 goals against. And like you mentioned, 2 for 7 on the power play. With a player like Mitch Jones on one side and Reza Terrence on the other now, they have a little bit more of a balanced offense. So something like that is just not going to fly again. And something we kind of kept track of a lot last season, I don't want to say prided ourselves on it, but was the plus minus of each individual quarter throughout the entire season. Oh, okay. Hit me because I'm interested.
Well, I was going to do it later on, but first quarter, Buffalo has a 2-goal advantage, 23-21. In the second quarter, they have a 4-goal advantage, 35-31. So in the first half, if you did that math, 58-52 in the first half, 6-goal advantage. The third quarter, Phil, is where it comes in handy. They've outscored their opponents 39-18. That's a 21-goal difference. That's where they come alive. They make the adjustments at halftime. They come alive on the defensive and offensive end. It's their highest scoring quarter, and it's their lowest scoring giving up quarter. In the fourth, it's 25-24, 1-goal advantage. So in total, they are 64-42 in the second half, 22-goal advantage in the second half, and they're outscoring their opponents 28. It's quite impressive. 122 goals on the season so far on an injured offense and only giving up 94. They've done a very good job, but that third quarter is key for them.
Yeah, I really thought the first half would have been a little bit more negative. I'm kind of shocked that they're 0 negative. I know they're 7-2, so it's I guess at that point kind of hard to have too many negatives, but at the same time we've seen so many second quarter runs or second half runs recently where they seem down in the first and have to come back, but I guess they're not really down and
it's
out.
Mostly
just kind of
2 games.
Like it.
It's 2 games. It's the first half, Buffalo versus Toronto. They were up 8-4, and then versus Georgia in the first of the 2 games, it was 10-6 at half.
Yeah. So outside of those 2 games, I feel like their first half is usually a little rougher. Especially the first quarter, they seem to come out flat a little bit often, and I think that the first half is something they need to absolutely work on. And outside of that, obviously that fourth quarter does not sound great, and oftentimes they allow teams to kind of creep back in and make it a little bit closer. But I think the first half in general is something we'd like to see a little bit more of a statement first half, come out and even with a couple goal lead, but just come out a little bit more on fire than they seem to. I mean, oftentimes I feel like they score the first goal, but then they just kind of, I don't know, disappear for a little bit. I mean, Rochester ended up going up, 5-1 after Buffalo scored the first goal, and then Rochester stormed through and scored 5 more, and Buffalo just had no answer until a little bit closer to half when they got it to 5-3, and then obviously the second half kind of took off. But I think the first half of the games just throughout the season, I think I'd just like to see them come out a little bit more. I mean, just the first half seems to be overall a struggle for the Bandits. I mean, again, not obviously by much, but I just would like to see a little bit more dominant first half, and I know we're asking a lot of a 7-2 team, but at the same time, I think just we are. I mean, we're looking for perfection. We're trying to win a championship here. We got to nitpick the little bit of things that we can nitpick because that's what we do. So a little bit stronger first half would be great. At the same time, just keep doing what you're doing because you guys are playing great.
Yeah, it seems like they're using the first half to more feel out their opponents and figure out what they're doing, and then use the halftime to adjust to what they're doing and counteract it. But another thing they're going to have to counteract is the transition in defense. I'm just on a transition nonstop here and into the transition here. Oh, what another one. Kyle Matisse, Phil. I know that name's going to hurt every time we say it. 2 goals, 15 assists, 17 points, 45 loose balls. Really wish he would have came to Buffalo, but I knew there was no chance since he's the captain of the team. Trevor Baptiste, you're going to hear his name a lot because he's in the face-up dot, and he's really, really good at it. He is 114 for 166. If you can't do that math, it's 69%. Last time he faced Buffalo, 16 for 25 in the face-up dot, and just in Week 10 alone, He was perfect going 22 of 22. He is not the Jake Withers, but he might be second or third best, depending on if you like TD Erlin a little bit better. But he's just a beast in the face-off jet. Chad Tutton, defender, 50 loose balls, 11 caused turnovers, 7 block shots. He's a mammoth back there, along with Ryan Wagner. 45 loose balls, 6 caused turnovers, 14 block shots. So those are two guys that you're going to have to sneak the ball by, especially if this offense is hurting. And then in net, Zach Higgins, 3-3, 11.71 goals against, 78% save percentage. He was the sole reason that Philly was in the first half. He just shut him down, and then the Buffalo Bandits were able to get to him in the second half. But that's what you're looking at in the back end.
With Philly's season, I mean, they're definitely still in, especially with that acquisition of Mitch Jones. They are by far not giving up on their season. But as things go on, I mean, maybe Kyle Matisse could be available closer to trade.
I think he signed a 3-year deal.
I don't care.
I think he's going to be there.
I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care. I would just like him back. All right. But
Dietrich,
yes,
make the phone call. We're requesting it. We requested the phone call in the offseason. Didn't happen. Trade him. You love trades? Bring him here. I love it.
We'll take... that's the only one I really want from this team.
We'll give you a 6th round pick for him, Philly. You love 6th round picks.
Deal.
Lick your wounds from losing the Super Bowl. Trade us Kyle Matisse.
We'll also take AJ Brown for the Bills if you don't mind.
That too, yes.
If we can just cross
Jalen Hurts,
cross league.
Devonta
Josh
Smith.
Allen and Jalen Hurts in the same backfield with AJ Brown and Diggs
deadly.
on the outside.
Who's going to throw it? Who's going to run
I don't know.
You don't know.
You don't know. We don't know. All right, we're way off track here. So transition defense, pretty solid, especially their transition game. Again, I know the goals aren't necessarily there, but the assists are. Matisse is someone we've mentioned who stays out on the floor a little bit longer. Baptiste just incredible in the faceoff, and then Toot and Wagger just true stay-at-home defenders, but really good at what they do. And then Higgins, like you mentioned, his first half was incredible. Luckily, the Bandits were able to get to him in the second half. Hopefully, they learn what happened between the first half and the second half, this being the second time they're playing him, just kind of how they were able to get it past him and what happened in the first half that he was able to stop them so much. But learning experience from that first game and hopefully a big win in the second.
Yeah, I think you're definitely going to want to figure out and shut down Joe Rezateris. I feel like the offense runs through him. You got Mitch Jones on the other side now, so like you said, it's more balanced on the offensive end there. But I think the offense, because Mitch Jones has only been there, this will be 2 full weeks he's been there, 1 game in the bye week, I think the offense is still going to run through Joey R. So if you shut that down and you control him and he's still going to get his points, but if you limit what he can do, you're going to limit what that offense can do in general. And then get to Zach Higgins early. You weren't able to capitalize in the first quarter. You looked very sloppy. Second quarter, you just shut everything down. Then the third and fourth quarter, you rolled them 10-3 in the second half. If you get to him early, you're going to shake his confidence. He's been known to kind of go into a shell of himself if you get to him early. Hopefully they do that, but the Buffalo Bandits, you can see they kind of figure out their opponents in the first half and then just put their foot on their throat in the second half and come back. But the last thing is, I think we touched on it to start this segment. What is this team going to look like? Is Josh Byrne going to be back? He was in street clothes on that video that they did where they were asking, if you're stranded on a desert island, who do you want? Who do you not want? He poked his head in there and he was in street clothes. He wasn't practicing. Frazier still needs a new contract and he's still not back yet. There's talk that him and Kluch aren't close yet based on what Johnny T said, but then Dietrich said that they're all close. I don't know what the word. I wouldn't bet they're back until at least April, but I don't know anything. I have no idea. That's just a simple guess. But I think names that you might remember: Nate Kuznetsov. I do it every time, Phil. Kuznetsov. He has been questionable like the last 3 weeks. Is he going to make his return? Justin Robinson was shown at practice. He's practicing, but he also needs a deal. No, he just signed a deal, I believe. I think he signed a 2-year deal not that long ago. I think he was on the field practicing. So those are 2 names. But if they're going in, who's coming out is the big question for me.
I think it's one of those things where if you have all 3 Robinsons on the floor at one time, you are automatically gifted, I think, a free goal is what works. The NLL bylaws say. So
as long as
it's a power up, and you automatically start the game 1-0 if you have all 3 Robinsons out there. So they definitely need to get him out there sooner than later. And in general, joking aside, he was an incredible defender for them last year before his injury, and he just looked really, really good as the season continued to progress. He was a very good stay-at-home defender. was one of the better ones we've seen. When that injury happened, I know you and I were kind of in shock, not only for the injury, but as well as how well he was playing for defense and what it meant. It was toward the end of the season, what it meant for the Bandits and playoffs. And obviously they took a little bit of a hit in playoffs with him missing. So with him back out there, what does this defense look like? And like you said, who is coming off? And I think the big thing with who's coming off is that, I mean, even if we want to talk way down the line, I mean, if you have Byrne, Cloutier, and Fraser all in, I just don't know what this team looks like. I don't know who you're removing from the offense currently to make room for all these players. I know Solver's been a little bit of a rotational guy, and he's mainly been an injury fill-in, but he's been playing pretty well. McCulley has a niche role on the offense as well, but he's been more of a fill-in, even though we like him quite a bit. But, I mean, you're solid players. I mean, Nanako's not going anywhere. Smith obviously isn't going anywhere. Burns not going anywhere. Brandon Robinson's not going anywhere. The other Robinson, and then Buchanan's not going anywhere. So I just don't know where. Obviously, if Kluch comes back, Kluch is going in. But like Fraser and even Kuznetsnikov, just if they were given the opportunity to play, like you mentioned, who is leaving the field? I don't know if they would put one of those guys as more of a transition type player and take out a defender. I
think you'll get Ian McKay back on defense, so that opens one spot. I think you'll pull out probably Carter McKenzie, who's been a healthy scratch. You might send him down to the practice squad. This is just all on the fly on the top of my head. I think he might go down. You might see Dalton Solver go down on the practice squad. I think you got to cut them and put them down because they didn't start on the practice squad, but don't quote me on that. But I think the benefit is a good problem to have, I guess, because you have absolutely. That depth scoring.
Right. That's something I want to say they're missing, but I guess they're technically not missing that because they've been doing perfectly fine without these players. I know McKay filling in on offense has been weird, but he's also known to do it, especially in summer, so it's not something he is not used to.
Future transition player of the year, Ian McKay, that guy?
That's the guy. And he's playing just an absolutely incredible season, both offense and defense. So having him fill in on offense has been great, but even if he drops back to defense, again, where's J. Rob fit into the defense at this point with Bomberry out there and all these other defenders that are playing great that you don't want to take off the field? So, like you said, a great problem to have. Too much depth is always fantastic, especially with these bajillions of players who are on holdout or all these other random lists that we will likely never see these players, even though we would love to see these players. But even if they were, some of those other players were to come back again, I just don't know who you're taking off. So too much talent is always great to have, but it's going to be interesting to see how they kind of finagle some of these players back on the field.
Yeah, two things before we move on. Justin Robinson did sign the 2-year deal. I confirmed it. I was right about that one. And then Kuznetsnikov. Please play so I can hear how your last name is pronounced. So if I know you have been butchering it, which I have been, I can get it corrected. So let's hope he gets on the field just for that fact alone. Nothing on the field talent-wise. I just want to know his name. But any changes to your BSC team, which currently stands at Smith, Nanakoke, Brandon Robinson, Ian McKay, and Matt Spanger. I have Josh Byrne, Brad McCulley, Kyle Buchanan, Steve Perillo, and Nick Weiss.
No, I think our teams are really good.
I wish we had an IR so I could put Josh Byrne there and put somebody else. But there's no way I'm dropping him. So
yeah, no, he'd just got to
sit with zero
scooped.
for a while. But Phil, with that, what is your score prediction for this game on Saturday in Banditland?
All right, we're gonna be home. It's gonna be cold, and I know you mentioned it earlier, wing night. You're roasting the wings. I guess if you're hosting the wings, you get to roast them. So I guess there's that. The other question I had, do they serve wings at the arena?
They do. Okay. They do. I don't know where, but they do.
So those better be half off. That's
half off wings.
That's all I'm saying. Right. So we won 13-9, 10-3 second half. I don't think that's going to repeat itself as far as 10-3 second half. It might again, but I feel like the Bandits are more prepared this time. I'm going to go 15. Let's have some fun. We'll go 15-10. We'll give them 10 because they got Mitch Jones now, so I'll give them one extra goal.
So, Phil, it is Friday, so I need my PK's hot corner, and I know we do the predictions at each game, but we don't do a prediction like this. I have not been known to do it like this. Phil, I got them winning 14-6. That's my hot corner. I got Philly only scoring 6. This defense is going to lock him down. Matt Vince is going to have one of his best games he's ever had as a Buffalo Bandit. And 14-6 is my PK's hot corner. Wings just gave up, 5 goals? They're only scoring 6 in this one.
Yeah, considering they put up 9 last time and then added a really good offensive player. That'd be incredible. And I'm here for it.
They didn't play in Bandit Land, though.
I'm here for
on
it.
Wing
That's
Night.
true. On Wing Night.
Still hate it. But we'll move into the final thing here. Milestones, we got a handful of them. And if Josh Byrne plays, which I don't think he will be because they got another bye next week. This is a weird month of bye, game, bye. It's February sucks. Not just because of the weather, but because there's only 2 Bandits games. But he's only 8 points away from passing Rich Kilgore for 6th place in Buffalo Bandits history. So if that does happen and he puts up 8, he's got 6th place. Now we'll move on to the players who are probably going to be playing. Dane Smith, 9 points away from 900 on his career. He would be just the 3rd player in Buffalo Bandits history to reach that number. It's just an incredible number just thinking about it. And since he's been averaging over 100 points every year, is Johnny T's record in reach for Dane Smith? Matt Spanger is currently tied with Billy D. Smith for 11th place in Bandits history with 49 caused turnovers. Matt Bennett is 10th at 47, and Jay Thornbert is 9th at 48. If those names sound familiar, it's because Ian McKay, not that long ago, a couple of games ago, passed them on caused turnovers. Dane Smith is currently at 54 assists, Phil. That is good for 15th with Mark Stainhouse for most assists in a single season for the Buffalo Bandits. He also holds that record. He is 4 away from moving into a tie for 12th with 58. He is 5 away from tying 10th with 59. He's 7 away from tying 9th with 61. And 8 will get him into a tie for 8th with 62. All possible. And then the last one, Phil, I got a question to follow up with this one. He's just 7 points away. This is Dane Smith once again, to getting into the top 25 in points in a single season for Buffalo Bandits at 80. Phil, how many players in Buffalo Bandits history have had 80 or more points in a single season, and who are they?
I don't know who they are, but didn't you pretty much just tell me how many there were?
I said there were, did I?
I mean, Dave Smith will get into the top 25 of points in a single season with the Bandits at 80
but
points. So
there's not 25 players because players have done it multiple times. Yes.
Now I got you. All right. I really thought I had you there. Okay, so Johnny T did it, 7 or 8 times probably. And
he did it 11 times.
Oh, my gosh. All right. Well, that takes out
that is one, though.
That. Dane Smith's done it a lot himself.
Dane Smith has done it 6 times, so that's 17 of the top 25 right there.
Stainhouse has done it.
There are 5 more names. Stainhouse is one of them. He has done it 3 times. So there's 5 more names, or 5 more
people
accomplishments. There's 4 more people.
Is there a Kilgore on that list?
There's not a Kilgore.
What? That's crazy. I know they were both more defense, but I figured at some point. Oh boy, we are testing the knowledge now.
2 on this list will be playing. Are on the teams that are be playing this weekend.
Thornbert.
Nope.
I didn't think so.
He's on New York.
Anyway, the points. What you said this? Oh, you mean the Bandits game
in Bandit Land?
Like Mitch Jones?
Mitch Jones did it once.
Wow. Joe Resetarits.
No.
Dang.
That's why I said he's on this team.
He was Bandit.
Just did it last year.
He's on the Bandits right now?
Yep, just did it last year.
Oh, Byrne. What am I?
Yep, yeah. Josh Byrne did it once, and you're missing 2. This guy did it twice, and the other guy did it once.
I mean, Byrne's not playing this. Well, we actually have no idea.
That's why I switched and said this weekend they're on this team.
I guess that's fair. Okay, what was your last hint?
This one guy did it twice. The other guy did it once. One of them's East Coast. The guy that did it twice is East Coast. The other guy that did it once is West Coast.
Yeah, I'm just going to have you give it to me. I have no idea.
Ryan Benesh did it twice.
Oh, my gosh. I got to.
And then Sean Evans did it once.
Ugh, Sean Evans, get him out of here. I'm sad I forgot about Benny. Wasn't Crawford? I'm surprised he never got it when he was...
He was only here for half a season.
That's fair. But he became your favorite.
Well, he might have been here for half a season and then another half a season. So he might have been here for a full total season, but it was really only
Broken
2 half
out.
seasons.
Yeah.
But
he was number 1 in your
pretty
heart.
Impressive that Johnny T's done it 11 times. Josh Dane Smith has done it 6 times, and Mark Steenhouse has done it 3 times. It's pretty good. I mean, Dane Smith's about to get it 7 times. It's going to be pretty impressive and knock one of these guys off one.
Yeah, so Smith will have to do it at least 12 times in order to really fight for Johnny's record. I also like that Johnny was number 11, did it 11 times. He knew when to stop.
There you go. He planned it. That's why he retired when he did. But Phil, anything else on this episode before we shut it down and get ready for a busy weekend in Buffalo sports, including heading to Banditland?
Yeah, I'm pretty pumped to get back out there, and then once it's over and we cash in another W, I'll be sad to take another week off.
Yeah, another week off, not just because you won't be having a home game, but because the team's literally off.
Right.
But on our next show on Monday, we will dissect the Buffalo Bandits game versus the Wings. We will talk about the 2 games that the Buffalo Beauts faced versus Minnesota, and then we got the 1 Sabres game to talk about, and then any other news that arises, because Bison season is right around the corner, Phil. It's right around the corner. But thank you all for listening.
Before we shut it down,
yeah, go right ahead.
Just super quick thought: it would make sense that Byrne wouldn't play this week if they have another week off.
Yep.
Because now,
that's why I'm thinking
if
he's not going to play.
If he's out this week, you give him 2 weeks again, and he gets essentially a month off to rest that ankle. And again, they're 7-2. You're not going to want to push it. So I would say it's highly unlikely we see Josh Byrne floating around out there this weekend.
Phil's hot take. Phil's hot take for
no Josh Byrne.
But thank you all for listening to another episode of the Buffalo Sports Collective. Follow along with us on Facebook and Instagram at Buffalo Sports Collective and on Twitter at Buffalo Sports Co. Visit our website at buffalosportscollective.com. Subscribe to our channel wherever you listen to podcasts, and make sure you leave us a review on Apple and Spotify. Until next time, bye-bye.